This was supposed to be a video about what I do when I'm not working. And apparently, recording myself while I'm not working doesn't count as working. That is the first rule we're going to quietly ignore today. I called this my resting Sunday, and I really meant it. I had already finished my morning workout. Movement is usually the easiest part of my day. It gives my brain one clear thing to do. It turns the volume down. For a little while, my body and my thoughts are moving in the same direction. And that is a big part of why I created sweat therapy. I didn't create it because I had mastered relaxation. I created it because traditional relaxation feels impossible for me. Sitting still doesn't make my nervous system feel calm. It makes every unfinished thought louder. Movement gives all that energy somewhere to go. But after the workout, I decided I was going to have a relaxing Sunday. I was going to bake something sweet. That was the whole plan. One cozy activity. No pressure, no purpose. Just cardamom buns. This part is very satisfying. You put separate ingredients into a bowl, and slowly they become one thing. There is a clear process. There is a correct next step. There is visible progress. My brain loves visible progress. And the moment I started, I had an idea. Since I already have everything out and I was already making a mess in the kitchen, I could also make a bread. It would actually be inefficient not to. And here is where my relaxing Sunday became more relaxing, at least according to my nervous system. Because my nervous system has a very specific rule. Rest is allowed, but only if it stays productive. Okay, it sounds much more reasonable than that. It says, you already have everything out. This will save you time. You'll feel better when it's done. It never says, I don't want you to rest. It just keeps adding tiny conditions to the rest. You can rest after the buns, after the bread. You can rest after the kitchen is clean. You can rest after tomorrow is prepared. You can rest when there is absolutely nothing left that could possibly be done. Which means I can rest approximately never. But I didn't know that yet. At this point, I was happy. I wasn't forcing myself through anything. I wasn't standing in the kitchen thinking, this is terrible. Why am I doing all this? I was enjoying it. And this is important because we often imagine burnout as doing something you hate while feeling miserable. Sometimes burnout looks like a person happily doing 12 things at once. Sometimes the thing exhausting you is also the thing making your nervous system feel safe. My nervous system does not understand waiting time. Waiting is not a pause. Waiting is an empty space that must be filled. Okay, so we're making breakfast protein coffee too. And this was optimization number 2, or maybe number 17. It depends on when you start counting. I used to think this was simply good time management, and sometimes it is. There is nothing wrong with being efficient. There is nothing wrong with preparing food for your family, making homemade bread, or using the waiting time between 2 steps. The problem is not any individual thing I'm doing. The problem is that I don't seem to experience the moment when enough becomes too much. I can see what needs to be done. I can see what could be done. I can see what would make tomorrow easier. But I don't always feel what all of it is costing me while I'm doing it. That information often arrived afterwards. My body sends the invoice when the work is already finished. I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD as an adult. Before that, I had spent my entire life creating rules to help myself survive without understanding why I needed them. Do it now so you don't forget. Do several things at once so you don't waste time. Prepare everything in advance so nothing surprises you. Stay useful. Stay ahead. Keep moving. Don't sit down until everything is finished. And never trust yourself to return to something later, because later you might lose the energy, forget the plan, or become overwhelmed by restarting. These rules worked. That is why they are so hard to question. They help me build businesses. They help me create content. They help me take care of people. They helped me appear organized even when my brain felt like it was running 37 different conversations at once. They made me productive, capable, impressive sometimes. But survival rules don't disappear just because the emergency is over. They keep doing their jobs, even on a quiet Sunday, even while I'm baking something, even when nobody is asking anything from me. While the dough could rest peacefully, naturally, I took a shower. Because the dough could rest, I apparently could not. This is another rule. Never wait while doing nothing. If something takes an hour, that hour is not yours. It is an opportunity. You can shower, clean, make yourself breakfast coffee, prepare scrambled eggs for your hubby, vacuum, get dressed, start another recipe. And you feel very clever while doing it. You feel like you found hidden time that other people somehow missed. I don't experience an hour of waiting as an hour of rest. I experience it as a container, and my brain is always asking how much I can fit inside it. I think this is where ADHD and autism create a strange partnership for me. My ADHD brain wants stimulation, movement, and momentum. My autistic brain wants predictability and control. So staying busy can satisfy both. There is always stimulation, and there is always a plan. I don't have to sit still long enough to notice that I'm tired. I don't have to wonder what comes next because there are already 6 things happening. I don't have to transition from doing something to doing nothing. I just keep going. And from the outside, it looks like I have so much energy. People sometimes see everything I do and assume I must naturally be more capable than other people. What they don't see is that I may not be choosing to use all that energy. I'm just running on a rule that says, if you're still standing, you haven't done enough. You don't stop because you are approaching your limit. You stop when your body makes continuing impossible. And because that crash happens later, it is easy to pretend that the two things are unrelated. I'm fine while I'm baking. Then afterwards, suddenly, everything hurts. Suddenly, I can't move. Suddenly, I'm on the couch wondering why a nice Sunday made me feel like I had completed a physical endurance event. But that part usually isn't recorded. The camera gets the capable version of me. The camera gets the bread, the buns, the makeup, the clean kitchen, the finished result. It doesn't get the moment after I close the phone. I don't usually tell anyone what happens after days like this, because then they might suggest I stop. And stopping is the one thing my nervous system still doesn't trust. There is something almost funny about baking with yeast. The dough gets warmth, time, space. No one stands over it shouting, "Could you also be accomplishing something while you're here?" We understand that leaving it alone is part of the process. But when it comes to ourselves, rest somehow feels like a failure of the process. And baking really does feel restful to me. That part is true. I don't think rest always has to mean lying still, especially for a brain that doesn't necessarily become peaceful when the body stops moving. Sometimes, rest is doing something that doesn't demand a performance from you. The problem is that my nervous system doesn't let that one restful activity remain one activity. It starts collecting responsibilities around it. One relaxing thing becomes an opportunity to complete 5 useful things. And eventually, the restful part is buried underneath all the optimizations. You don't have to become less productive. You don't even have to learn how to do nothing. You just have to stop making rest something you earn when everything is finished. Because everything will never be finished. And your life is happening while the list is still full. You don't have to finish everything before you're allowed to enjoy your life. So, leave something for tomorrow. And I'll be right here practicing with you in sweat therapy.